All right, Clay. So, question for you. Who had the better Enterprise career? Pilot, boomer, Travis Mayweather, son of a freighter captain, married to another freighter captain who had a son, who then found a girlfriend in the season finale, or no-name ensign who blows his brains out in front of Archer at the very end? Who has the more emotional arc?
I don't know why they didn't just stick with Kelby. As soon as they showed him in that episode, I was like, oh, yeah, it's going to be him. And maybe that's why they didn't. But, that was very strange to just throw that guy in at the last second and have him. Also, phaser blast to the head off screen, not very cinematic because it just kind of goes. No. And it's like, there's not quite the same as a, blast.
No, you don't see blood, or there's no impact. You're just supposed to there's no reason that you have to cut away from showing that. I don't shoot him. He can shoot himself in the head and fall down, and there's nothing graphic about it. They should. This season's all about callbacks. They should have done the thing that the other captain does in Wrath of Khan, where he shoots himself and he's like, as he slowly dissolves from the. Is the phaser the most awful way to kill someone? It seems like it's the most awful way to kill somebody. They in canon they say that disruptors are worse. Disruptors do some sort of incredibly painful thing to you. Is always what they say. They seem identical because you get deteriorated into ash basically, but I guess the disruptor stings a little bit more on the way down. Yeah. So here we are with Terra Prime. Let's get to it. It's the 21st episode of the 4th season of Star Trek Enterprise, the penultimate episode, as they say. Came out on May 13th, 2005. Arc 2 of 2 in Terra Prime. 4 of 4 in Section 31 in the 22nd century. 3 of 3 in the Xenophobic Humans arc. Teleplay goes to Judith, Reeves, Stevens, and Garfield. Reeves, Stevens, and Manicoto. Story credit goes to all the same Judy, Garfield, and Andre Bormanis gets a story credit for this one. Directed by Marvin Rush. In universe date, January 22nd, 2155. In this one, Terra Prime. A human isolationist leader threatens to destroy Starfleet Command unless all aliens leave the Sol system immediately. Well, I have to see where we stand right at the start of this one, Clay. I have a very different opinion from what seems to be the traditional opinion of this episode, or it seems to be the popular opinion, at least. What did you think about Terra Prime?
Well, let me first start by asking you a question. Who had the better question?
Sure.
Would you prefer what would be the better series finale for you for Star Trek Enterprise? The upcoming episode, knowing what we know about how that plays out, or this episode that ends with T'Pol and Trip crying in a room about their dead child?
That's kind of my thing was right, knowing nothing about this episode, but knowing about the finale. People were kind of generous to this one. They're kind of going the Terra Prime is this is the real finale of Enterprise. They go, okay, maybe
8.3 on IMDb. Yeah.
This is a terrible episode. I hated this episode. I thought it was so awful. And it left me a little, I felt sad when it was over. I was like, oh man, I didn't have time to prep for what the ending of Enterprise was going to be, because now I've got the finale coming up, and I was like, oh, they're going to have a farewell. I know that Archie gives a speech at the end of this episode, and that's probably going to be some sort of hurrah moment where they all, everyone kind of goes off, and the writers knew that this was the end. And
terrible speech.
I thought every aspect of this was bad. This was an episode that was so bad, I was laughing at inappropriate moments when I was not supposed to be laughing at this. I was supposed to be feeling bad or something. I laughed when the guy shot himself with a phaser, because there's something inherently funny about committing suicide with a phaser. I laughed. Peter Weller has a line that I assume was ad-libbed, where he is fighting with Archer, when in the mining facility, when the glass shatters and he's fighting with Archer. Archer's trying to get to a panel. Peter Weller goes, "I locked it. You can't use the controls. I locked it."
Yeah, that was. I'm pretty sure that was an 80. I think it was an ADR line. what they
Was
put
it?
in afterwards. Because otherwise you've got these two middle-aged men fumbling on top of each other in arguably the worst fight scene in the history of Star Trek. Where like everybody who's seen this show has seen Total Recall, right?
Yeah.
When that window explodes, you start going, your eyes start bulging out of your head. You don't go, oh, it's just, I just can't catch my breath. And then like do like a slow. Do you ever watch the old kung fu movies where they didn't have the money to actually do slow motion and they just had the actors throw their punches slower? It was like that. It was, and then they cut to Trip, who's just like hanging out, sitting on a seat with the gas mask on, being like, "Well, this is a hell of a thing." It was the worst fight scene I've ever seen in Star Trek, the entire franchise.
To be fair, although it makes no sense, apparently the terraforming has made Mars a breathable atmosphere. Which
don't care. Then why don't blow the window up? Then it's not.
Why
it's
blow
not
the window out? That's my exact thing. It's like if the windows, I had forgotten about that until the window blew out, and then Peter Weller goes like, "Oh well, I grew up mining, so I'm used to not having oxygen." Yeah. It's like, oh right, why did they do that?
If you're on a space station and blowing out the window is the equivalent to like realizing you're in Denver, Colorado, as opposed to at sea level, then don't do it. It's not interesting.
I locked it. The control panel. I locked it. I took that on my phone for posterity. I thought that moment was so incredible.
You should use that as your text message sound.
Yes. Or when I unlock my phone and I fail, Siri should yell that at me. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm a little down in the dumps about this. I was expecting this to be better. I thought that this was terrible. I thought this was a really bad episode of the show. In almost every way. Like I can almost forgive the episode being bad if the writers at this point were like, "Oh, we just got canceled. This is our like Brandon and Rick are coming back for the finale. So this is our final chance to do something." I could almost be forgiven the episode if it was a terrible episode that was just trying to get stuff done for characters and was just like here's everyone's final thing and whatever, see how it goes. They try to do that here. And whether it's the fact that it doesn't really fit into this episode and the fact that these characters have not been developed at all, the Reed, Hoshi, and Mayweather stuff is terrible. Across the board, terrible. Every scene, which takes up about half the episode, where Reed says goodbye to Section 31, like I'm supposed to care about that. Hoshi determines that she's in charge now, and she's going to tell this douchebag to hold on a second. We're not firing until I get the word go. And then Mayweather, to give him something to do, they just have the villain of the previous episode go, "No, I was lying. I'm actually a good guy." And he goes, "Okay." And that's his story. That's terrible. Terrible.
And she's like, "You're gonna tell Archer, aren't you?" He's like, "I have to." And then he never tells Archer because they're on the thing and they're flying down and it never comes up. Like he doesn't even mention it.
I don't know.
Also,
what do you think?
Please, unless I missed it somewhere and I didn't understand why did he make the baby?
Okay.
Did I miss the line of dialogue where they explain?
Do we want to talk about the baby?
I think the baby is the most misguided element of both of these episodes because it's like a ball they put in play that they seriously didn't have anything interesting to do with, and they decided to fucking kill it at the end of the episode. For reasons I can't fathom why you would do that aside from just doing it. Like it's not even like even the thing that they when Phlox is like, Vulcans and humans can't mix. In my head, I'm like, well, that's obviously not true because Spock.
It's not even true in the context of this show. They've met their son from the future last year. He's a half human, half Vulcan. They know that this is possible.
Yeah, and then to say that, have this heartbreaking scene, and then have the fucking episode end with Trip coming in tears, talking about the funeral arrangements for their dead child, and then saying, actually, they just didn't follow the recipe correctly. It could theoretically work if we ever wanted to do it for real. It's like, what the fuck?
Are you up for retrying it right now?
Yeah, it's like, did you ever see that SNL skit from years ago where Will Ferrell plays the doctor and Chris Parnell and Molly Shannon come in and he has to tell them that he lost their baby? And
I don't think so.
Well, it's worth watching, but it ends with the two of them kind of like sad, and then Chris Parnell goes, well, you know, I'm really mad at you, but you're a straight shooter, Doc. So how about it, honey? How about you and me go home and let's start making another one? It's like that's the same energy, except with funeral arrangements baked into the proceedings on this one.
Yeah.
I could not. Can you please explain to me what the purpose of the child was? Because I clearly missed it.
The only purpose of the child seems to be for Peter Weller, when he's giving his $1 billion speech to the Federation Council or whatever, is to go, this is what is possible. And I don't understand what that's supposed to prove. It's
the worst. Why didn't they give him a puppy? Let's say, look at this awful mutant, beautiful baby. You know, like they should have just did a live feed to the puppy bowl if they were going to pull out this, you know, angelic child with cute pointy ears that they didn't even show because they had a like nice little baby hat on. I don't know. It was like, he wasn't even going to use it to like fix his hand problem, right?
No, he's using Rigelian gene therapy, and that's fixing his hand. So
what? Yeah, what are we doing here, guys?
I don't understand the baby whatsoever, because all of that, it's like, it's known by this series that humans, like ignoring Spock, it's known by this series because they met their future son, that this is a possible thing to do, that this is something that can happen. And so when they bring it into this, and Paxton has no reason to have this kid, and then to compound that, it's not even really an interesting reveal about how he got their genetic material. The guy just stole it out of the fridge on the Enterprise and shipped it to him. So this also begs the question, why did he choose those two? Only because they're in a relationship in this show. There's no reason to choose Trip and T'Pol to have their sperm and egg combined to make a baby. There's no reason for that to happen in any way. So,
you know, especially because as we've seen in Star Trek franchise, anytime a human and a Vulcan get together, aesthetically beautiful child is the result. It's not like, you know, it's not like, why didn't he choose Phlox or someone? Right. Not to mention the fact that, like, if I was on Earth and someone like this was showing this video of this child, I would go, you know, that could just be his son. Like, where'd he get this baby? I don't know that this is a half Vulcan baby.
It just has ears he's got glued onto its head.
Yeah, he's got slightly pointy ears. You could fake that. We're in the 22nd century. You can do lots of stuff. The guy on the Enterprise turned into a rock monster for an episode, and he's fine. Yep. You can't put some fake ears on a little baby just to prove like, I don't know. It seems like it was a terrible plan all around from Peter Weller's character.
Terrible plan leads to, like, you know, it's that same thing. If you are doing something thematically with this, where this amounts to something for the characters, I can forgive all the sort of like hootenanny and craziness that's Peter Weller not having a point, and the guy breaking into the sperm freezer and stealing Trip's goods or whatever and shipping it off FedEx style to him. I can ignore all that. If it was, it's the same problem I had with the last episode. The baby, to me, and now we're at the end of the series, so they know that nothing can really happen here. The baby does not do anything for Trip and T'Pol in a way that I feel it should either clarify or bring their story to a kind of conclusion, the relationship to a conclusion. Yeah. I didn't get anything out of that, and then by the end of it, you're just back in this point where they're like, well, I guess it could be. It was just a terrible medical procedure that caused that to happen. Really sad, really strange, downer of an ending. And even moments with like T'Pol is holding the baby, you know, it's like
I did like those scenes. I thought
that's
T'Pol
awkward.
Being awkward with the child was fun. Yeah.
But I look at this thing, she's like, when she says all the symptoms, she's like, the baby has a fever and its white blood cell count is elevated. And the baby is just like calmly sitting there. It's a child
like,
act.
hey,
You can't
guys.
expect, but there's nothing wrong with it. It's just this fine child. They don't even ADR in like coughs or anything where you're like, oh no, the baby's sick. It's just a baby.
The baby
And she's,
is a worse actor than Porthos. Remember when Porthos was sick and he was
Yeah.
just like laying down with his head between his paws, and you immediately were like, that is a sick dog. Someone take care of that sick dog before I start crying. This baby looked like it was totally fine.
Well, to me, I guess to go back to a bigger thing, because I think that this episode really dies in the details, but I think it dies in the bigger overall picture too. For whatever reason, this one felt like everything got cut in half from Usual Enterprise episode. I feel like the budget got cut in half. I feel like everyone's acting ability got cut in half for some reason. I feel like the quality of the scenes and the direction was cut in half. That action sequence was terrible. Peter Weller was okay in the first episode. It feels like he ran out of gas and just didn't have anything left to deliver here. I thought it really felt to me like zero fucks given by the production team at this point. It was just like this, the show is done. This is the end of this thing. And it shows, I think, in almost every scene that happens in this episode. It's just not good. Not good.
Yeah, it's like there's a few things that are kind of nice in it. Like I kind of like some of the Hoshi stuff until the I keep calling him the mayor because he's the mayor from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and I was convinced that he was going to be the bad guy because
he's got bad guy energy
as far as you can throw him. Yeah,
I think his name is
some of that
Samuels in this Enterprise episode.
Samuels. I liked the stuff with Hoshi and Samuels, because they had that nice scene where Archer says, "Remember when you first came on here and you freaked out every time the engines?"
I like that
up?
scene.
She's like, "Yeah, I did." Yeah,
I like the scene with her and Archer.
Yeah, I like the beginning of the Samuels stuff until eventually she just kind of like folded and didn't really stand up to him that much and was just sort of like hedging her bets a little bit. I didn't really like that because it kind of felt like it didn't do her any favors.
I thought all the acting in that was terrible. I thought everyone involved in that, like, and that's a sequence that's been played countless times in Star Trek where a character's like, you have to fire the gun right now. And he's like, no, we wait a minute. And that might be the single worst example where I think Linda Park and that actor, neither of them are doing a good job of selling what this is supposed to be. There's just no drama in that portrayal.
I don't think anybody knew what the hell was going on in the story is the problem. Because, like, the Peter Weller phoning it in reeks of, I don't know what the hell I'm saying. I'm just saying it. Stuff like that. Those scenes feel like they're just doing them without any real understanding of any context. Like, even watching it, I was injecting my own context in, like thinking the Samuels was a bad guy because I wasn't even totally sure what they were arguing about. I guess they wanted to blow up the Mars place.
Yeah.
Before they shot
before
the gun.
He can shoot Earth. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It just wasn't really landing with me. And the shooting the gun thing, that's a whole nother thing where Trip he forces Trip to fix the targeting thing so it won't kill millions of people, but then he's like, I know you're going to do it incorrectly, so now you got to do it right so you don't kill anybody, and then he just fixes it incorrectly differently.
Yeah.
Right? That's what happens. He just fixes it differently.
Well, he does it the second time more subterfuge, like when he breaks in, he Harry Houdini's his way out or something. He does something a little bit. He does exactly the same plot that Peter Weller was prepared for, but he was not prepared for it to happen twice.
Yes, he wasn't prepared for it to happen twice. It's like when a football team runs the exact same play and gets the yardage they didn't get the first time.
That's right. You run the same play in Madden twice, it all works out. Yeah, I thought that Anthony Montgomery was so bad in his scenes that I was like, this is the reason this guy didn't get any more scenes, because his acting with this woman, I understand he as an actor is like, what the hell is going, like, what am I supposed to feel about this? Like, is this a real scene that I'm having where this woman was clearly the villain last episode and now just goes, no, I'm actually a good guy. You should let me out of here. You know?
Like, her argument too is that she had to pretend she was the bad guy so the other actual bad guy wouldn't get suspicious about it.
Yes. Yeah. And leave or whatever.
I don't know. Would they not know each other or have? I don't know. I mean,
she's trying to get it's a mole hunt or whatever. She's trying to figure out who the non-Kelby ensign is. There's only like 60 people on this ship anyway. I don't know how you can figure it out. I think.
Yeah, it was like the entire third act of Star Trek VI crammed into about 2 minutes.
That's right. It's just a pointless plot. The Mayweather thing. It takes up about, I don't know, 5-7 minutes of the episode too. It's not
between the 2 episodes. Yeah, between the 2 episodes, it takes up a lot of space.
It just doesn't.
And it was one of those episodes too where I was like, "This is really what we're going with. This is your last at bat. This is the second half of your 2-parter, and we're spending like real time on a shuttlecraft following a comet through the atmosphere."
Yep.
I don't know. I mean, to break into a base, I don't know. It's just, I think, didn't you say that last time? It's like, what else can they do?
They did exactly what I thought was going to happen, and it was just as bad as what I thought was going to happen. Yeah. They had to break into the base. Peter Weller is just going to sort of fight back against it that way. And the reason that they can't just attack the base is because Archer knows 2 people on it, and he will not kill 2 people. They don't even have a discussion about, you have to fire every torpedo you have at this thing to save Earth, Archer. And he goes, T'Pol and Trip are down there. I can't shoot them like this. Terrible.
He just came off of an entire season where he was like, I will sacrifice anyone to protect Earth from the horrors of the Xindi's weapons. And this time he's like, maybe not.
He's pissed off. He didn't realize they had the laser gun on Mars that could destroy whatever it is. And also, Terra Prime, I was a little concerned when this started. I was like, oh, maybe I was wrong last episode, and Terra Prime won't actually fire on Earth. They're just going to shoot all the alien ships that come near them. No, they shoot Earth. Their thing is we're going to shoot Earth with the laser. So
yes, yeah. It was kind of like The Rock in that way, where they do fire the rockets, but it goes into the ocean instead of going into San Francisco.
Yeah. So I feel our discussion is a little. It's one of these episodes where there's like so many nits to pick that you might get lost just endlessly doing that here. Why is this a failure at this point? Like, I know specifically why the details lead me to think that this is a total failure of an episode, but is there something like uniquely wrong about doing this at the end here? I don't know a better way to phrase that question really, but is it like I was really let down by this, and I don't even like this series, but I was like, I was expecting one last episode before we sort of hit the shitter here with the finale, and it really caught me by surprise. I don't know if you felt the same way.
Yeah, I think part of the problem is the sort of through line of your entire series, right? This entire series is supposed to be the building blocks of the Federation. And last episode, you've brought it up to the point where these different species are sitting down to actually talk about working together. And then you inject this element of destruction to trying to push that apart and racism and xenophobia and stuff, which is an interesting thing to throw in there. But what you don't do in this episode is have those people, those different races who are going to come together, actually come together to help stop this problem.
Sure.
So what you end up with is Enterprise going on another fucking Enterprise mission to blow up one guy who's got a big laser. And then even that, after that, Samuels is like, I think they're just going to straight up cancel this meeting because these people do not want anything to do with us anymore. And then the next scene, they're all there, and Archer's like, hey, you know what? We gotta do it. And then everybody starts clapping. It's like, oh my God,
it's
what
not
a
even
leader.
the scene where the aliens are getting up to leave, you know? And Archer's like, I have to say something to stop them from...
Not only are there aliens there's more than I thought there would be, because it wasn't just the main building blocks of the Federation. It was those guys and a bunch of fucking other guys I'd never seen before. It's like, you know, it's like it doesn't... You're really... Like, what do you... this element that you're injecting in this final episode here of someone who's a direct conflict to this Star Trek utopian future of species working together and everybody being equal, that doesn't even play into the finale of it at all. Like even on the Archer level, I don't even think there's a moment where Archer is like spouts off at Peter Weller about why he's misguided and stuff.
No, they talk about their dads.
It's just Peter Weller. Yeah, it's Peter Weller going, your dad was a piece of shit because he wanted to take the couldn't wait to get his hands on the warp technology, and my dad was a coal miner from Pennsylvania, the same Pennsylvania that loved the Vulcans 150 years ago. You know,
Peter Weller,
I don't know. It's and then Archer's just like,
voted
yeah,
for Joe
man.
Manchin. In the
We said no to the Voting Rights Act. We said no to the Vulcans. We're saying no to this too.
It was, I found that incomprehensible. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to distract from the point, but just the fact that Weller and Archer, they do not have a conversation that is fitting the end of the series. It's so generic what they do, and as you're saying,
even Weller and Trip, who's actually like has skin in the game as far as like you've got Trip who has gone from aliens killed my family and I hate aliens and want them all to die to
even before the first season he was the least friendly towards aliens out of the entire cast.
Yeah. And now in this final episode, he's like, oh shit, I have a half alien baby. I guess I love aliens now. And I've realized that aliens aren't that bad. Like you don't even have them have a conversation about it. It's just nothing. And then when they get there, they find Trip because they both magically run around the same corner at the same time. I don't know.
I would agree. I mean, I thought that we've talked before about the scope of Enterprise. I thought that the conference scenes where this is supposed to be like the birthplace of the Federation, I know they don't have a budget to do much more, but everything feels so small and so insignificant. And the way that you're saying where it's like Enterprise has to save the day and the humans have to save the day is another aspect of this smallness thing where I feel like shows like DS9 just did it better, where in the Dominion War, it was actually like there was a consensus of the races working together. You felt like there was a sort of like interplay between the Klingons and the Romulans and the humans and the Cardassians eventually and stuff like that. And here it's just Archer has to cowboy up and do the thing. And then all the alien diplomats will be like, well, you did a hell of a job. We're back in on this sort of, we're back in on what we thought we were going to be. It's just so unsatisfying that's where the origin of this Federation is supposed to spawn from this moment. And you mentioned at the start, Archer's speech, I think, is terrible. Bakula can't do these speeches. The writing, I don't think, is even very good. I don't know.
The fact that the first person to stand up and applaud that speech was what's his name?
Soval.
Vulcan guy.
Yeah,
Soval was just made. I almost threw up in my mouth. I was like, "You got to be fucking kidding me!" Like this is. I could understand like his crew clapping, and then everybody else starts to clap. Soval doesn't clap for that shit. You kidding me?
I know.
Come on.
It's both an underwhelming speech that he is forced to give an overly enthusiastic applause to. It's almost like he's trying to save Archer's bomb up there. He's like, "Oh, that was a great speech," and everyone goes, "Oh, okay."
You guys just don't get it. You don't get it. It's too smart for you guys.
I mean, Soval's in here just because the series is wrapping up. Obviously, and it's bring him in, but yeah, I don't. It's weird because I feel like I have so much to say about it. But at the same time, there's not a lot to say. It is an Enterprise episode. And maybe the reason that I'm being so harsh on it, although I don't think I am, is that getting to the end, there's always this false hope with this series. You're like, maybe they're going to turn the corner 4 seasons in. Maybe now is the time that they're going to actually get this going. And this was an Enterprise episode to its core, down to the action sequences, down to a villain whose motivations I don't really think are very convincing, down to Archer has to save the day, down to strange subplots with your tertiary characters. And it just ended in a point where it's like, that was Enterprise right there.
That Section 31 stuff was awful.
Yeah, in what sense?
It was just like so unnecessary and just I don't even remember what information he got from the Section 30. He got one of those little see-through green.
Yeah, he
things.
told them about where Terra Prime is or something, right? Are they on the moon? I think he knew that. I don't know.
And then it ends with the guy being like, "Well, it looks like you're smarter than Section 31 is."
Yeah, he gives the Seth. He's like, the apprentice has defeated the master or something like that. What the fuck?
Hope you come to work for us someday. It's like, he's
and
like,
then
I hope
Reed
you come to
shakes
work
his
for us
hand.
someday. Although I guess Enterprise is going to be pretty busy. And he's like, yep, we are. See ya.
Yeah, gotta go. Reed, I mean, to me, all that writing reads strongly like Discovery writing, where it's like nothing has led to this point, but you're supposed to feel the show is like, this is the end. Reed has to have his final sequence because we don't know what the Reed character is. So we'll have him act as if this is the end of Reed's story is finally breaking away from Section 31, right? And so they do this, but we just learned Reed was involved with Section 31 2 episodes ago. There's no gravitas to this. And so when the guy says, I wish you'd come back to work for me, and Reed's like, well, I wish I will, but I'm not going to do that. And the guy's like, well, I respect your cojones. And then they shake hands, and it's supposed to be this like heads coming together where they realize like, Reed's sort of grown into his own character. All of it falls flat. Doesn't mean a single thing across any of this. Doesn't mean anything for Reed. Doesn't mean anything for that guy. I don't know. Strange.
I thought it was really weird how they specifically didn't kill Peter Weller. I'm not saying they should have. I'm not saying that he deserved to have a, well, maybe he did because he created a baby that was destined to die. And if you want to get morality into storytelling, that probably deserves a bullet through the head. But
he was also going to kill millions on Earth too with his
he was also going to kill millions of people on Earth. But like it's so awkward the way that fight goes, because that fight seems like it's supposed to have the gravitas of one of these guys will die, and then he just like karate chops him in the back of the head or whatever, and he falls over, and then they're like, well, we have him in custody. I think what they should have done, first of all, that fight should have been between Trip and Peter Weller, not Archer.
Yeah.
And then after they escaped, and it seemed like Peter Weller was left for dead, Section 31 should have shown up and put a bag over his fucking head and dragged him away. So everybody thinks he's dead, but they've got him squirreled away somewhere. And where were the MACOs? Where were the MACOs? The MACOs been waiting the entire series to storm a fucking compound. And Balthazar Edison's back up on Enterprise eating chili or something. What the hell's he doing? Kirk, you'll never understand what it's like to sleep through the alarm to go down to the planet and watch stupid Captain Archer punch a guy when I could have been shooting everyone.
I was not. It was the real Enterprise finale, Kirk. I was not there for the real.
Honestly, I felt like I was better used on the ship at that exact moment, not on the planet, doing what I had been trained to do.
So terrible.
I don't understand, man.
Why do people like this
it's got to
episode?
be budget stuff. It's got to all be budget stuff, right?
You think that it's bad because of budget stuff?
I feel like it's not entirely, but it just kind of smells of like we don't have money. We don't have money for MACOs. We don't have money for we don't have money for extra ships, so we can't do any extra ship stuff. Like we can't have the Vulcan show up or whatever.
I think the main.
I don't know. I mean,
I think the main problem with this one is that it does feel like they were trying to wrap the series up, but they were stuck in a two-parter. So I think that in the timeline of production, when the show was canceled, this was the episodes that the writers were working on. So it was airing a different episode. The actors were working on a different episode, but the writers were writing this two-parter at this point.
Sure.
What it feels like to me is the cancellation came right in the middle of it. And they're like, we have to just wrap stuff up, but we're stuck in this story that we can't just abandon because it's a two-parter. We ended the previous episode building into this one. So they have this really, and I can really feel like the energy just went out of them where it's like, well, we have to wrap this up, but we have to also do all the character work at the same time. There's no way to do this satisfactorily. And it feels like they just threw their hands up and went away with it. I agree it feels cheap, but it feels to me like, it feels cheap to me in the sense that all the energy and enthusiasm was no longer in the production at this point. So like everything just feels like, yeah, all right, we're going to run down the hallway and shoot them with the laser and we'll do that stuff. The writers are doing the same. The directors aren't doing anything interesting with this. It's like, just shoot it, move on to the next thing.
Okay, at this point, Trip has to go get to Paul. Okay, how does he do it? I don't know. He goes to
just
get
walks it. Just walk over, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like to me. That's where it feels like the failure is. I feel that impacted the script, the performances, the way that it looks, the way that nothing really seems to pay off or do anything. Would you agree? And the second question to you, why is this so well regarded? This is a fairly well regarded episode of the show. You gave it an 8.3 on IMDb. That's insane. That's crazy.
I mean, I didn't, but...
Well, you quoted it to me, which is good enough.
Yes, yeah. It was my rating, my personal rating.
You adopted the rating by looking it up.
Over 5. I've gone over 5 for this episode. First, the only one in the entire franchise. 8.3, guys. Yeah, I would agree. I think it just... There's something that feels like it's just stalled out at this point. You're probably right, honestly. They were probably working on this when they found out that they were getting canceled, and so they kind of probably had to scramble a bit. As to why it's so highly regarded, if I had to guess, I would maybe say because people forget about the last scene and think that it ends with the round table speech and the clapping, and it's like, what a way to end, what a way to bring it all home. I don't know, like quality wise, I can't imagine people preferring to watch this episode over almost literally any other episode.
No, but it also doesn't have the canon connection. Like, quality aside, I don't even think that there's a strong enough this is the episode that effectively sort of ties this series in with everything. And you go, this is something remarkable to see the birth of the Federation. I think all those scenes are terrible. I think they're bad.
Yeah.
I think it's honestly, so underwhelming.
What I actually kind of liked about it until that terrible scene at the end was I thought they were going to end it on a note where they weren't there yet, where it's like, this is still a work in progress. We still got to get people back to the table. It's unfinished. And so you're not dealing with that kind of, all right, let's wrap this stuff up and tie it in as tightly as we can. They kind of like half-assed it a bit there, where it's like, like I said, the Samuels is like, well, this is where they're never going to come back after this. And then the next scene is everybody's back and they're all clapping for him.
Yeah.
I think it would have been more bold to do something where it's like, shit, one thing happened. This thing is not there yet. We still have a lot of work to do, which is why we have to keep doing what we do. But yeah,
some of the alien species that aren't the founders walk away, right? The aliens that we did not recognize are the ones that are like, this sucks, we're going to leave, and they do.
Yeah, that one guy who looked like he was a villain from Turok the Dinosaur Hunter, N64.
Yes.
Yeah. That guy looked pretty cool. I don't know what that was supposed to be, but that was a cool look.
It was a cool mask, yeah. I think those are the right
That
aliens.
seemed like we have 4 designs we were going to use in season 5, but we didn't get around to it. Let's just build them for this episode and put them on screen.
Throw it out there. So maybe final thoughts will change things, but I do want to talk about the reason that I find the baby stuff super egregious, and that's the way that the episode ends, is, I think I've talked about this before, there is no real lazier way. The reason why I hate these sort of baby stories and the baby dying is that there's no easier way to generate sympathy and empathy. Like, when the baby dies, I feel bad in this episode. I'm like, oh, this is like obviously a tragedy.
Sure, of course.
But there's no writerly skill involved there. You literally just in the script go, the baby dies, and that's the end of it. It's such a scenes where a child like that dies and the scene is not handled well, like they are not here, is just so emotionally manipulative and lazy and bad that I really get upset with it, because there's no bigger cheat than that kind of a story. And if you don't pay it off well, like they don't here, you walk away going, they were really just trying to play me. They were really, that was all that was. It's just this show trying to play me, and it makes me annoyed. It makes me angry, and it's disrespectful, I think, to the Trip and T'Pol characters who are forced to go through that and then not even have a decent ending to it. There's nowhere to go. It's terrible.
Like that's the most egregious part, I think, is because while I agree that anytime you do that, it reeks of manipulation. They didn't even, if you want to look at it from a callous storytelling point, they didn't even do anything interesting with it.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't change the story at all. Like it didn't affect the story at all that the baby was A, there, and B, died. They just were sad about a baby that was gone now, that they kind of were starting to, like, it does, you know what I mean? Like there's there's nothing comes of it. There's no purpose in killing the child like that.
I can see an ending where Paxton does not develop this baby, right? Or if Paxton does develop it, I can almost believe, maybe it's too saccharine and stupid, but I can almost believe that Paxton eventually comes to a point where he humanizes the baby and sort of has a come to Jesus moment about what he's doing. Maybe he dies right after that, and it's like, it's whatever it is. But I can see the baby representing something for Paxton. And instead, he has, because he's such a poorly drawn villain, he has no confliction about what he's done with the baby. He has no qualms. He's keeping it around for God knows what reason. But that, like, the baby literally represents the Federation, right? It's the merging of all these alien races into some new unit that is what the Federation and this baby represent. And it dies. It doesn't live.
Right. Yeah.
Like, what is it supposed to be representing there? Paxton needs to die. The baby lives. That's the point.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you can't let that dude get off scot-free. I mean, obviously he gets arrested, but come on. Like narratively, you can't let him get off scot-free and then fucking kill a child.
I don't know. That was so weird.
No, so maybe this is too much. But what if the baby hadn't been born yet? And maybe hadn't even been like the genes hadn't even been crossed yet, but that was like something that he was trying to do. And so you end up in this kind of situation where at the end, instead of having a child death, you've got this sort of uncertainty of whether or not, this creation is already underway. What do you do in this situation? Like he was doing this for nefarious means. Is it worth I guess at this point it turns into a abortion argument, but you know what I mean, where there's something a little bit meatier as far as like theme and whatnot at that point. I honestly thought that what they were going to do was that whatever was going on with his hand, he was going to reveal that he was taking like alien stem cell injections or something like that, which makes him a huge hypocrite because he's actually tainting, quote unquote, tainting his bloodline with alien blood so he can fix his hand or something like that. And maybe
he kind of is doing that.
Part of that.
Yeah,
they don't really lean into it that much though.
No, I mean,
for a character like that, it's
so like apparently his condition is so obvious that T'Pol can look at him for 2 seconds and recognize that he has some nervous disease, and then it's like, you must be treating it with Rigelian gene therapy because that's the only way. And he's like, oh, I don't know that. What you reminded. I'm now rewriting the episode, but remember that woman in the first part who ran into the conference and died from a phaser wound, but told Archer and them about Terra Prime, the blonde woman. She could have been the surrogate with the Vulcan embryo, right? Who's escaped the lab. And that the birth of the baby at the very end is what we're talking about here. I just think it's really surprising. The baby, that's such a hopeless ending. That's hopeless.
It's awful. That's the last scene. If people consider this, as I said at the beginning, people consider this is the real finale of Enterprise. That's fucking awful. That's like, did you ever that is up there with the finale of Alf and the finale of Dinosaurs as the most bleak ending to a series I have ever heard of. You know, this is like, it's like if Perfect Strangers ended with Cousin Balky getting arrested by ICE or something.
Deported.
It's just
Oh man. Yeah.
I don't know, man.
That's sad. Well, we'll go to patron thoughts because some people have rated this very highly, so we'll see what they say and we can feed off.
How do you not save the baby? Even if we can't save the baby because blah blah blah. Why can't Phlox figure things out like beforehand and be like, oh, actually, if you add this in, well, you know, or if you want to be super ham-fisted about it, we realize that if we add Andorian DNA in, it'll even things out. You know, some shit like that where it's like,
the Tellarite and Andorians.
You know, yeah, why not?
Yeah, sure.
Your options are ham-fisted metaphor, or you kill a fucking child.
Yeah.
That's the end of your episode and your series.
Even just the way it, you know, I don't know. I don't think this is like some sort of elitist parent thing. I think anyone would notice stuff like this, but like the baby dies and they are not holding it and it's not contagious. It's in a box on a table. Right. You know, it's like there is no humanizing this child. If you're going to kill the baby, have T'Pol and Trip holding it and it dies, right? It is. Yeah. It's in a box on Phlox's table, and they're looking at it through the glass, and it's like, what is this? This thing is pure plot. There is no. These characters don't care whatsoever about this thing. We're not even going to have a moment where we show this happening. Crazy. That's crazy. What a crazy plot line. What a crazy episode. All right.
Yeah, I was just going to say. I've kind of forgot what I was going to say, but I think you pretty much summed it up. Why? I was going to say, honestly, if I'm being completely honest, if this had happened midway through a season, I probably don't mind it that much. Because
the episode itself, you mean, or something specific?
Yeah. Well, specifically this baby thing.
Oh, the baby. Okay.
Because at least at that point, you have time to deal with the fallout of what's going on here. Yeah. If you really want to do something like this, I think you can get away with it somewhere in the middle of the season where, especially if you've been doing all this stuff with Trip and T'Pol and then this is the next hurdle that they have to deal with. Sure.
Yeah.
Great. It's not my favorite idea, but I think it works. Not here. Not like this. As that one character, Jinx from The Matrix, said all those years ago, not like this.
Not like this. Are you, well, as Russell Crowe said, are you not entertained, Clay? It sounds not. So let's go to final
Top
thoughts.
5 baby deaths. Top 5 baby
time.
deaths, though, of all time. on network television.
Number 4, Kid in Deadwood.
Oh, boy.
All right, so let's go to final thoughts, I guess. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Hope you enjoyed the content. If you want to support the show, that is now wrapping up Enterprise and moving on to bigger and better pastures or greener pastures. Who knows if they're better? They're different. Everything's always greener on the other side of the fence. We're going on to Voyager.
How do you not expect them to bring fucking Jonathan Frakes in for the finale when you pass this in and it's like, oh my God, how do we pull this up? Somebody call Riker. We got to get something on here that people actually are happy about. Call Riker. We'll put it on the holodeck. What's their favorite season of TNG? Like season 5 or 6? Put it somewhere in there. We'll just say it's an offshoot of that. It'll be fine.
We'll see. Patreon.com/The Penske File, the best way to support the show. That is now moving on to Voyager. I assume Voyager. It might be Picard. We're recording this way ahead. I still haven't figured out when Picard is coming, but if we do take a break, it'll just be to cover season 2 of Picard before Voyager, and that's only 10 episodes. But it depends on timing, so we'll see. And patreon.com/The Penske File is the best way to support us. A couple dollars a month gets you extra stuff. We talk about sci-fi movies. We do revisits. We do Star Trek revisits. We do horror films. Do a whole bunch of stuff on there. Get access to a special channel on the Discord, which you should join if you're interested in talking to us. And the captain's here over there gets a special channel where they get things early. They get episodes 2 days early and all that good stuff. So thank you very much, everybody. But a special thank you goes to our Captain Tier supporters, who include Samuel Custer, Tark Latif, Andrew Cholog, Joint Mango, Kyle Barrett, Mike Burnett, Christian Pouch, Matthew Ross, Brandon Howes, Matt Cutler, Nick Sergi, Michael Pond, Grim Santos, Sean, Bradley Killens, Dwayne Hackett, Vol13 Hero, Darth Moss, Kevin Reyes, Jordan Cooper, Russell Elledge, Stephen Minton, HH28, Derek Zajac, Paulo Roscoe, Jake123, Poindexter G, Patrick Seba, Dave Davies, Nick the Rat, Captain Brazen, Eric Santuan, Jakey's Gamer, Kevin Lowry, Garple John Zorn, William Scheisler, Rayhan Jaffer, Soylent Blue, Zane Majors, Olivier Pardue, Retail, Tom Hickey, Dizbrada, Jose Hunters, EWNF Remixes, Edmark Stark, Captain Munchausen, James McLennan, Jonas, Tommy Tango, Tuvix Must Die, and Chris McLaughlin, Rage for the Machine. Thank you very much, everybody, for supporting the show. Clay, we'll go to Patron comments. We might need to split this because my voice is giving out on me. So I will send this to you right now. This is Kyle Barrett, who says this.
I want to make sure I get this right because he seems to be very particular about the way that I read these.
He is particular.
Malcolm hasn't felt this ill since after that night on Ryza when he had to... Jesus Christ. Nah, you know what?
I didn't just give this to you just to make you read that. I am. My voice is giving out on me, but I realize now what I've done.
Malcolm hasn't felt this ill since after that night on Ryza when he had to lick the cum of 47 different aliens off a Klingon's forehead ridges. I wish Kelby was the Terra Prime spy because I need a reason for my intense hatred of the guy, although he probably wasn't chosen because the actor couldn't perform the emotional suicide with his one facial expression. I don't know why there was any doubt a human or Vulcan hybrid could live, considering Trip and T'Pol met their fucking adult son last season, but that final scene proves Trenier is such a good actor, one of the best in the franchise. The episode makes me think they should have killed off Archer seasons ago and replaced him with Captain Hoshi because she's great, although I suppose Archer is worth it because he allows Paxton to talk about how the two old white guys with power in the episode only have it because they inherited it from their fathers, which is probably the most spot-on political commentary of the whole two-parter. Overall, it's a solid finale that feels thematically true to the season, show, and franchise, and it's a shame there are absolutely, categorically, no more episodes of Enterprise after this one. It is 4 out of 5. It is almost a guarantee that I rate the finale
better,
much higher than this episode.
Yeah, I didn't think it was possible.
Almost a guarantee.
Yeah. Oops. What did I do? All right, I can read the next one. It's shorter. Matt Ross says, Terra Prime, the penultimate, and Kyle gave that a 4 out of 5. Kyle, whose opinion
5, yes.
I used to respect, but now.
Yes. Now he just goes for the blue jokes, you know? No quality content anymore. He's just going for the clicks at this point.
Matt Ross says, Terra Prime, the penultimate episode of Enterprise that, despite any weaknesses, is better than the dumpster fire of a series finale next. Regardless, this episode seems more interesting than the opening episode. However, the fact that yet again there are no other ships or patrols to stop a flying factory is a bit bizarre, considering this is on the heels of the Xindi attack. I found that the characters seem to have more to do, and again, Travis talks and does stuff. It was refreshing that Paxton knew that Trip sabotaged the Verteron array and seemed to have more life in his characterization of a terrorist who believes he is a patriot, but ultimately xenophobic, hypocritical, and crazy. We do get to the usual Enterprise shooting and fistfight fest with the low oxygen Archer. It is sad with the death of the hybrid Elizabeth, but also hopeful, leading to the outline of what becomes the Federation and the Trek we know with a pretty good speech. 4 foundations out of 5. Next, this one's very short. I can read it. Groppler John Zorn says, Terra Prime, man, Kelby just can't catch a break. 3 toxic work environments out of 5. Poindexter G says, I'll give this to you so I can blow my nose. I recognize Samuels.
I recognized Samuels as the mayor from Buffy, and I kept thinking that he was going to pull some sort of crap. Me too. So well done doing the psych out with the casting. I'd also forgotten that Peter Weller was in this. Using Earth overcoming its own issues as part of the uniting the other worlds is a great idea. The whole storyline with Elizabeth works well on its own, but also is a great setup of sorts for Spock. The action worked well, and the story made sense. I can't ask for a whole lot more on those counts. Is that what it is? Do people like it because it's like, oh, I guess Spock can be conceived now?
That's Darren Mooney's entire point in his review about this.
Oh, my God. Really?
I don't agree because I don't think that
Who gives a shit?
Well, I don't think Enterprise is fetishizing Spock that way, where it's like, I don't know, it's too subtle for Enterprise, I think. Like if they were doing
this
something,
episode? Or?
He thinks it's pretty good. Yeah.
Okay.
He doesn't really give ratings, so it's hard to tell, but he certainly doesn't think this is a bad episode. I don't see that because to me, a show like Discovery fetishizes Spock more than Enterprise has to this point. And
Sure.
I don't see this show, if it is doing something about that, it's really not commenting on why that's important. And it's also, again, we know that this is possible. As Kyle said, they know that these half-breed species exist, that this is a possibility that can happen.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see the connection outside of the fact that it's a half Vulcan, half human character. That feels to me like Star Trek fans recognizing that and looking on, and you insert that value onto the baby. But that's just me. I never got that sense that this was a show that's really celebrating Spock and being like, this is the whole thing that matters. It never came across that way to me.
Well, even if that is the point of what they're doing, to what end? Who gives a shit?
Just to link it. Yeah, it's just to make the connection.
Like that doesn't make it good to me. Like that doesn't make it's like at the end of Star Wars Episode 3 when they're like, when you get a glimpse of the plans of the Death Star. It's like, yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, they're going to do that in about 100 years. Cool. Or,
yeah.
Sorry, 30 years or whatever. It's like, it's okay, I understand what the reference is, but I don't understand why you need to kill a child to get there. Why can't the baby being born be the way
symbolize
be
that?
The precursor to yeah.
What should we call her?
Why can't? Oh yeah, it's a half
Spockette.
human, half baby. It's a half human. It's a half human, half baby. It's a half human, half Vulcan baby. That's crazy. I can't imagine. My mind is going crazy with all the possibilities of what could happen in the future.
Yeah.
Cool. Great. Why do
well,
you
I don't have time
die?
for that. How about we just crush this baby and just move on with our day?
Yeah. Like what does implying the future birth of Spock mean thematically or narratively for the show that you are in right now? Right? Because that's the only reason you would do it that way.
Yes.
If it means something.
Yeah. Ideally, yes. That's true.
Yeah.
I'll give you one more to read. I was so bored. This is Brandon Howells.
I was so bored by this episode. It's shouting, "Feel my grief, rage, and pain," while pointing a gun at my head, but is so by the numbers that I was bored. And who the fuck cares about Ensign we've never met being the Terra Prime spy and shooting himself in repentance and probably shame because of his terrible hairdo? Watch The Expanse instead. Two mispronunciations of I'm not going to pronounce it correctly. Then two mispronunciations of Canberra out of 5.
Canberra, maybe is how the Australians
Canberra.
pronounce it?
Yeah,
I would pronounce it
apologize.
Canberra. Canberra, Australia, I think, right, is the name of that city.
He was an outfielder for the Orioles in the 70s. wasn't he?
Canberra, Australia. This is Royo. You can
Canberra?
read this one too. I still have a tickle. Terra Prime. This is Royo. Final comment.
Terra Prime. After In a Mirror Darkly, this two-parter feels like coming down from a euphoric high. It's an unpleasant feeling, and I'm left just wanting to get it over with. The series finale leaves us with a mountain of stuff to talk about. This two-parter does not. I don't even care enough to give it a score. Meh out of 5.
Thank you, patrons, for leaving your thoughts about this episode, Terra Prime. I apologize for my voice. I'm getting over that sickness still. I should be better for the finale. I hope I am. Otherwise, we might have to delay it a week, Clay, just until I get better.
Sure.
Thank you for your comments, everybody. Much appreciated. Not everyone is in love with this episode, but it's a fairly high-rated episode. The patrons thought decently of it. IMDb thinks decently of it. Jammer's Review thinks decently, strongly of it. 3 out of 4. I think Darren thinks pretty highly of it. Let's go to our ratings here. I think we know what each of us are going to give this episode. Do you want to go first and give your take on what you're going to give it and why you're going to give it that score on our 1 to 5 scale?
Oh boy, I'm actually kind of on the fence because, like, does this deserve a 1? Is this, like, objectively or as close to objectively as you get a terrible episode of? I mean, yeah, I feel like it's either a high 1 or a low 2. I feel like it gets a 2 just for being a finale that's trying to do some stuff, even if it falls flat on its face. But it's just, I don't know, it's just not doing it for me. So
I'm definitely giving it a 1. I thought. Yeah. I was really surprised by how bad it was. I was sitting there watching it going, I can't believe this is happening right now. This is a terrible episode. Yeah. Enterprise I was tricked. People said this is the real finale of Enterprise. And I guess if it is, it's kind of fitting. I guess like maybe Enterprise just can't escape real or fake like imagined finale are both bad. You just can't have a good finale to this series potentially. I think it's a 1 because I think it fails on virtually every level. I think it fails as a standalone episode. I think that it fails in terms of what the story they're trying to do here is. I think that the plots are not just badly executed, but make no sense. There's like no reason to do anything that's going on here. Paxton is bad. The baby plot is bad. Mayweather's plot makes no goddamn sense. All the like Reed in Section 31, all of this is bad. And then it's just in the Enterprise trappings of chasing a comet down. We didn't talk about this, but I would have assumed that a comet hitting a planet is a catastrophic level event for whatever planet that gets hit by the comet. But what am I supposed to know? Anyway, it's a 1 for me.
I guess it depends. Yeah.
The shuttle also outruns the explosion. The shuttle follows the comet and outruns the explosion to get away from it, which, whatever. So Judith and Garfield Reeves with their climbing between the 2 ships. They wrote that episode too, I think. So maybe they're just into this stuff. It's a 1 for me. I thought this was bad. We'll see if the finale is worse, but I could strongly see myself at least going, well, it was good to see Riker in the finale.
So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give it a 2 only on the reputation of everyone saying that the finale is absolute garbage. If I don't think that is the case, this is going to be dropped down to a 1.
All right, so you're putting an asterisk on this one for now. You're going to say 2, and once the finale is done, you'll revise your score. Maybe. Revise.
Yes. If the finale is worse than this, I will rate it accordingly. But if it is not, I will rate this accordingly.
All right, Clay gives it a 2. I give it a 1. I guess we're quick here. Just a couple minutes of... I'm not going to wrap up the series. We'll do that afterwards. But that's the last normal episode of Enterprise that we finished right there. So 4 seasons, and we're done with it. We just have the finale next week. Maybe I'll just wait, I guess. I think too much would come back to how bad Terra Prime is, and we talked about that. So we're done. Thank you very much, everybody, for listening. Thank you for supporting the show. Thank you for leaving your comments. Patreon.com/ThePenskyFile is the best way to support the show. A couple dollars a month, as I said before. Please support the show if you're so inclined. Patreon.com/ThePenskyFile. Clay, do you have anything you want to say before we head off?
Keep listening to the Rotten Horror Picture Show, where we talk about movies off the Rotten Tomatoes 200 Best Horror Movies of All Time list. And on Patreon, Amanda and I are, this year we're doing Stephen King adaptations that are not on our main lists. And starting in January with It Part 2, And then going on from there in no particular order with stuff like The Dark Half and Needful Things and Christine and Maximum Overdrive and fun stuff like that. There should be a new episode of Badass out where Sean and I we do kind of a series wrap up and kind of talk about what we're going to do next. And I think that's it for now.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Grab a copy of my book, Bloody Hell, if you haven't yet. You can find that on Amazon, or if not there, at awaveblueworld.com, which is the publisher. And that is Bloody Hell with one L.
Well, Clay, it's time to say, I locked it. You can't do this. I've locked it.
I locked it. You can't, your plan is foiled, Archer. I locked it. It's the future where locks are unpickable.
Oh, man. I don't know.
Remember how those two are flailing around like if you had a fighting game and you both selected Bernie Sanders as fighters?
Clay fighter.
And
it's
then,
just like slappy arms waving around at each other.
And Trip is just hanging out there with like a gas mask on, breathing normally, just waiting for them to tire each other out. Not even like, I mean, I guess he had been shot, but he seemed fine.
Who's the little bit of a teaser?
What happened to the guy from Jason X? Did he
He's the guy who
disappear?
beat up Trip. He's the one who beat up Trip in the when he's trying to sabotage him the first time. Oh, where did he go after that?
Then I think he gets shot. Does Archer blast him, I think?
Archer shoots him. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, why is Paxton shooting to stun? He shoots Reed. It doesn't kill him.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what's going on.
Great question. I mean, is that the scene? Is that the scene that you don't see? Is that Ensign Massaro actually stunned himself in the head, and that didn't kill him, but the fall killed him?
He cracks his
head.
He
just whacked his head on like a non-child safe corner that's sticking out of the side of the wall.
That happened in was that Raging? There's one episode we were laughing about that at the end. I think it's Raging. She gets pushed from behind and she falls into those jagged edges, and we both thought at the moment she was going to crack her head and die at the end of the episode by falling. Yeah,
I do remember that. Yes.
Is that what his name is? Ensign Massaro, something like that. Yeah, that's
Massaro.
Massaro. Thank you, everybody, for listening.
Ensign not going to work here anymore.
Thank you, everybody, for excuse me. God damn it. Thank you for listening. We'll be back with the finale. These are the Voyages. See you next week.